How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Set 6, and today we're getting back to it. It is time for Chapter 7 of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. We're at the halfway point. Let's go. We are at the halfway point, and we're going to get moving, we're going to keep going. I want to get these finished. I'm kind of hoping that by the end of August, at the latest, I've got all these done, so that we can start making theory videos, because I keep seeing a lot of people talking about how there's no secrets and nothing to talk about and no mysteries after Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and like, did we play the same game? Anyway, that's for later. For today, it's Chapter 7. So, don't forget, leave a like on the video, subscribe for future content, share it about, but let's get cracking. So Chapter 7 picks up where Chapter 6 left off, and that is with us just recruiting Yuffie to the team. And it's quite apparent that she's in it for herself. Yuffie doesn't try and hide that, she's all about the materia. She's throwing glances at Tifa's materia, at Cloud's materia. So, you know, we're going to have to watch this one. We're going to have to keep an eye on this one. But we decide to make our way out of Johnny's hotel and into the main city of Costa del Sol, where we've got a few bits and pieces to do. Now, the first thing that we need to do is get changed, because we're going back to business now. So, you know, let's get out of these beach outfits and let's get ready for war, because things are going to get messy. Imagine climbing Mount Corel dressed like this, realistically. It'd be horrific. Absolutely horrific. Now, if we head to the area's notice board near the entrance to Costa del Sol, we will find that we've got two side quests that we can pick up. The first one is to help out Johnny, and we will definitely be getting around to that one. And the second one is to go and help out the three fashionistas, and they want some help with designing their next line of swimwear. So we decide to head over to the beach and see what's going on. Now, when we get there, we find out that the three of them are designers for Costa del Sol's premier fashion boutique. And what they want is two people to go on a date, and they're just going to kind of follow us around and watch us and take notes. It's a little bit weird. It's a little bit weird and awkward, but, you know, Gil is Gil, so we'll get involved and we'll do a bit. One thing that you can also ask them is, like, what was going on with them and Shinra, what was the deal with them and Hojo, and we just find out that they were doing the mayor a favour. Basically, they wanted to suck up to Shinra, get in Shinra's good graces, and hopefully not get Nibelheim or calmed one day in the future. I think that's what they're shooting for, so, you know, good work, keep it up. Now, the date consists of some of the same minigames that we already played in the previous chapter. The first of them is to go to Pirate's Rampage and do some shooting. It's pretty much the same as previously. I think it's a little bit harder, but there's nothing major to it. You get through it, it's done. And then after that, you head over to Run Wild. Now, while we're heading over to Run Wild, Cloud is being a bit of a grumpy guts today. I don't know if he slept funny. I think he might have got a bit of sand in some places the previous day. I'm not too sure, but he's definitely in one of his funny moods. So, he's already nearly killed Yuffie today. I think we're going to need to keep an eye on him. I definitely think we're going to need to keep an eye on Cloud in the near future. But Aerith's doing her best to try and, like, jab at him and prod at him and bring him out of this little mood that he's in. It's a thankless job. It really is. Anyway, then we get to Run Wild. Aerith is furious that she doesn't get to go in and kick the ball around, which I think it'd be a fun little special mode for this game. Give you the control of one of your characters and let you run around and hit the balls around. I think that'd be pretty funny. But Red 13 jumps in, does the thing again. This one's a little bit more annoying than the previous one, but, you know, to put the right colour ball in the right coloured net in the right order. Done. Very simple premise. Not the easiest thing in the world to pull off, but you'll manage. After that, we've got one final part of this day, and that leads Cloud and Aerith out to the beach on a pair of chocobos, and what we're doing is we're looking for some shells. So you do the chocobo sniffing thing, you find the shell, you dig. Sometimes you have to fight things, sometimes you get junk, sometimes you get a good shell. All the time, Aerith is still jabbing at Cloud and winding him up a little bit, like she tells him that if he says that, oh, food's just food, bad things will happen to him, and Cloud's like, what, really? Are you being serious? What? But by the end of it, I think she's a little bit done with his, like, weird mood and his lack of feedback. Because at other times he does, and he gets involved and he has a little bit of fun with her. But today, he ain't feeling it. He ain't feeling it one bit. And it even leads to Cloud being like, oh, stop being mean to me. It's like, stop being a little bitch, Cloud. Stop being a little bitch. Anyway, we head back to town, we return the shells, and we finish off this quest. Now, in order to actually finish the quest, we had to head over to the beach to see the showcase, so we're going to head over there. But on the way down there, I ran past this guy selling materia pops. Like, what? What? Is it like little frozen chunks of materia? Is it ice cream or like ice pops that have been blessed with materia? I don't know what's going on here. Is this guy just selling chunks of materia to people? Frosty chunks of materia. I think someone needs to look into this. I think there's some health and safety issues here. I genuinely feel like there's some issues. Anyway, moving on. We head down to the showcase, and, you know, there's a showcase going on. One of them's dressed like a pirate, clearly inspired by the pirate rampage. But all of the outfits have been inspired by the day. And then what's this in the background? No. No! No, Jules, no. Not again. Not again, Jules. No, we're not doing this again, Jules. Yeah, what are you doing here, Jules? Jules asked us to stop by the training facility, and I already don't like where this is going. I'm already not a fan of it, so I might just ignore. Why are you just stood there doing squats, Jules? Jules, why are you just stood there doing squats? It's the beach. Look at everyone. Everyone's chilling, having fun, and you're stood there doing squats. What's wrong with you, Jules? Right, ignoring Jules. Let's go away from Jules. We've got to go help Johnny. Johnny needs some help. Johnny put us up. We'll go help Johnny out. That makes the most sense. But when you head over to Johnny, things are a little bit weird. I mean, first off, Johnny has been beaten senseless, and, like, he looks pretty rough in the previous chapter, but somehow he looks worse at this point. I'm not sure how it's happened, but somehow he does look worse. But even more concerningly, at the same time, it seems like some of the doppelgangers from the previous day's events have kind of stuck about a little bit, and we've got a little team of Johnnies running around getting stuff done now. I don't know if this is good or bad. I mean, it's good for Johnny that he's got a support network, but it's bad for everybody else that there's a crowd of Johnnies running around. I don't know how to feel about this. God damn it, Johnny. But anyway, all of the Johnnies are running around doing things to try and repair the hotel, try and get things back up and running, which is a good thing. So we're going to head out there and we're going to help the variety of Johnnies. Now, the first couple of Johnnies had already gathered all of the supplies that they needed. They've just kind of left them lay around because they got scared by monsters. So all you need to do here is just travel around all the different zip lines, use the zip lines, but before you do, you know, grab the materials that have been left at the top of them. And it's good fun, making Cloud do zip lines and getting fun shots of the side of his face like this. Once you've done that, you go and help another pair of Johnnies who are looking for some parts to craft a boiler valve. And then finally, once you finish that part of the quest, there is a final part of the quest, but you can't do it at this point because it's something that you need access to the larger Corel region. You need access to the Gold Saucer region, essentially. So this is something that we can't do at this moment in time. We come back for the final part of this quest later on. We're going to have to go and see Jules, aren't we? God damn it. Anyway, we go see Jules, and they let us know that there are some monsters around the area. They're causing problems, they're stopping people getting here, they're interrupting training. So we go out, we kill all the things, and everything's beautiful. It's a pretty simple quest. This is just introduced as a way to inflict pain upon us. That's what this is. This is literally just a vehicle to put another minigame in front of us that is going to make us cry. And, you know, they succeeded. They succeeded. There's a Crunches minigame that you can do. It's very easy up until you get to Jules. Once you get to Jules, it's horrific. Yeah. Same as Remake, basically. Just like Rufus was a horrible boss fight in Remake and is also a horrible boss fight in Rebirth. Not horrible as in bad, horrible as in leave me alone, Rufus. But it's the same. This is just difficult. This actually is more difficult than Remake's version, like I feel. So, moving on. Moving on quickly. You can do a bit more running around, but this is one of those chapters where the side quest stuff is front loaded, so you do all the side quest stuff first before doing any of the main narrative for this chapter. So we've got all that done. There you go, Az. I gave the Chocobo a pet for you. That should tide you over for another few weeks, hopefully. Let's go to Mount Corel. Now, as we get close to the mountain, we find that the ropeway that would take us up to Corel is out of order, and we also see that Barret's getting a bit agitated, shall we say. This is all going to come around very soon. Yuffie is doing the usual thing, running around talking about materia, like, oh, can we get some materia? Can we find materia? Is there materia anywhere? So Yuffie's doing Yuffie. But everyone's just kind of resigned now to climbing the mountain. And that's what we do. I mean, Barret takes a bit of time to chastise Yuffie about doing her own thing all the time. Yuffie has a little bit of a whinge to us about Barret being a miserable old shit. It's just the usual stuff, Aerith ends up quite tired, so people go ahead and we go slow with Aerith and Red 13. And Yuffie's very much all about scouting up ahead to follow the materia, which she's kind of correlated with the Black Cloaks. She kind of feels like they're leading us to the materia, and I suppose in a way they probably are, but Yuffie doesn't understand yet. We'll get her there, we'll clue her in. Now, as we're heading up the mountain, we see a helicopter drop in, and it's Rude and Elena, and they're dropping off some Black Cloaks, so they are actively helping the Black Cloaks get where they need to go at this point, which is fun, you know. They know that they're leading people to Sephiroth. They know that we're following the Black Cloaks, so they're just going to do everything they can to give the Black Cloaks a little nudge and keep an eye on everything as it pans out. That's what it looks like. Now, Rude and Elena drop a little boss on us. It's nothing major, we deal with it pretty sharpish, but then we get a cutscene. Now it starts with Aerith staring up at the sky, and it cuts to Rufus in the Shinra building, and Rufus is talking about the Magnus Materia. Now the Magnus Materia is something that's kind of a little bit new, but at the same time isn't new. I feel like the Magnus Materia is a combination of two things. I feel like we've taken the huge materia from the original Final Fantasy VII, and then kind of combined that with the creation of weapons. So this huge piece of materia, this massive condensed piece of materia, is what allows the weapon to be born. And it seems like these weapons are kind of in their infancy, like a larval state at this point. I would predict that these weapons will be the things that we see turn into Emerald, Ruby, Diamond, Sapphire, etc. Like these are going to be all the weapons that we see. And then I would assume that the huge materia would potentially be left behind, or at least a fragment of it would be left behind after this process, and that will give us the huge materia that we had in the original game. The other option is that this Magnus materia isn't the huge materia, it's just the natural version of what Shinra are trying to produce, because in this scene in a minute, Scarlet talks about how, you know, we're creating this stuff, why do we need to go and get the other one? Well, we can make our own in the lab. So I kind of feel like that could be it. I'm not 100% on that. I don't think I've seen any confirmation of what the Magnus materia strictly is, but yeah, I would guess that it is A, to do with the birth of the weapons, quite obviously, but then B, could also become the huge materia afterwards that we know from the original game. I'm not too sure. Now, Rufus explains that there were simultaneous energy spikes detected in Mako reactors around the world. And when we look at the locations of these reactors, it looks very much like Corel, Gongaga, and Midgar, seemingly based off the positioning of that other one on the map on the right-hand side. So we see the one in Corel, we see the one in Gongaga, we haven't seen the Midgar one yet. But that energy spike that we see in this video is definitely centered on Midgar. So we can assume that there's at least 3 of these things that have been kind of spawned in, and the locations that they have spawned in at. If I had to make a guess, this would probably correspond with the events at the end of Remake when the livestream went through a massively tumultuous moment, a world was created, and in that moment the planet just decided, right, no, we've had enough. I've had enough of this. Summon the weapons. And there we go, we get the weapons, but they're still baby weapons at the minute. They're still baby weapons at the minute, they've not reached full power yet. Now, upon seeing all of this information, Hojo absolutely flips. And the footage that we're seeing here, I would have to assume is from the Midgar weapon probably. That'd be my guess. But either way, Hojo kind of dives into it a little bit more, talks about the giant orb of materia from which they themselves were born. So, like we said, we know that they create the weapons, or at least facilitate the weapons being created by the planet. But then what other purpose can these materia come to? And I feel like it could very well be the huge materia from the OG, but we'll keep going. Hojo gets super creepy. Like, the scene in Remake where he's in Aerith's face, way creepier than that. So creepy, in fact, that Darkstar, Rufus's little pet, who definitely isn't Rifu, looks up at Hojo and he's like, you're a bit sketchy, aren't you, mate? So when the Hellhound is looking up at you like, oh, mate, you've gone a bit far there. You know, when the Hellhound's doing that, you need to chill. Now, Scarlet pops off a little bit here because, like, obviously she's creating the material, she's working on this at this moment. So why do we need to go and get them? But Rufus quite accurately points out that it would make sense for them to, even though they are creating their own, have a natural specimen that they can make comparisons with. Rufus showing himself to be, you know, pretty big brain. I'm into it. Now, Hojo once again proves his grimness, but he says something quite interesting here, which is leave the materials. I don't give a shit about the materials. I don't want the materia. I want the body. I want the carcass. And that's super interesting and kind of shows where Hojo's kind of mindset is at the moment. He don't give a shit about the materia, he don't care about the magic potential of the materia, the power of the materia. No. He wants new samples so that he can create even stronger monsters. And if we've got one of these weapons living underneath Midgar in one of the reactors, Hojo's got pretty easy access to one of these things. And it could mean we see some pretty horrifying stuff coming out of Hojo's brain. More horrifying than we've already seen. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Because, you know, while we all hate Hojo, he's a very good bad guy. I am into him as a bad guy. He's super good. He's just weird and horrible and nasty and just keeps doing the most reprehensible things that you can think of. And I'm into it. It's good. It's good. Now, Rufus gets questioned on, like, why are we doing this? Why are we rushing this? And he just points out that Wu-Tai's after them, which everyone kind of buys into. So Scarlet gets some troops off Heidegger, and it seems like this is potentially an avenue just to keep ramping that Wu-Tai Shinra war up. But then Reeve finds his big boy pants, and he asks a question about the destruction of Sector 7 and the reactors, you know, the self-sabotage that Shinra were taking part in during Remake, and they framed Avalanche for it. We were doing stuff, of course, obviously, but they framed Avalanche for it, and President Shinra was constantly saying, this is for Neo Midgar, this is for Neo Midgar. And Rufus kind of just says that, yeah, my old man was a bit old and dumb. Why didn't you all question these decisions that he made? Why were none of you asking questions and pushing back against this? So it's kind of interesting the way that he dodges it and pushes it back on them. He kind of separates himself from all of those decisions and kind of drops the blame at their feet, which, to a degree, it kind of is. There was only really Reeve who was against it, everyone else was just on board. But this scene just goes to show that Rufus is now fully in command, he's got his own plans, he's got his own ideas, and he's gonna keep pushing them. And also it shows that Hojo's horrifying, but we already knew that, we already kind of knew that. Anyway, we move on to the next scene, and the next scene is back with Zack. So therefore we are in now the alternate world that was created at the end of Remake. Now Elmira shows up looking for Aerith. She's clearly got wind that Zack's here with Aerith and Cloud. So Elmira bursts in, runs upstairs, gets Aerith, chastises Zack a little bit for not really looking after him very well, you know, because he's not even wiped the face or anything like that. So Elmira's pretty pissed, and she takes Aerith and takes her back to her house because she knows it's going to be safe because Shinra have got bigger things to deal with. Now, we don't really get any indication of what those bigger things to deal with are, or even if Shinra are a particularly active presence at this point, because we saw the state of the Shinra building in this world at the start of Chapter 1, and I would guess that that is what Elmira is referencing here, the fact that they are super busy dealing the fact that everything just got blown up, or, well, not blown up, but destroyed by a tornado or three. So, yeah, Shinra are busy, Aerith is low priority at the minute, so we all head back to Elmira's home. Zack picks Cloud up, carries him, Elmira gets a wheelchair for Aerith, and we get another glance at the fully powered white materia. It's not activated yet, but it's fully powered. It's complete. It's not a hollow glass orb. So, yeah, very interesting times. We see Oaks, one of the kids from Remake, and he's all sad-faced at the fact that Aerith's not in a good way. You know, that makes sense. And it gives us a little sad moment, but then Zack asks Elmira what happened to this place. And Elmira answers that the world's ended, and we get a shot of one of the flowers. The leaves and the petals fall away from it and blow off into the wind. So very symbolic of the fact that things are going bad in this world. And then we get to see the rift in the sky that we saw in the trailers, and we get a proper look at it now, and it looks very similar to that rift that we see at the end of the game in Chapter 14. Very similar to that rift. And there's a lot of things that that could suggest. I've kind of already dipped into it a little bit in the video for that. And when we do come back to the end of the game in Chapter 14, I am going to do like breakdowns for Chapter 13 and 14. Even though I've already kind of done them in one video, I'm going to give them a video each and go deep into each chapter. But this is clearly symbolic to me of a world either being created or a world that's about to be destroyed and merged into another one, or potentially both. Maybe when a world is created, this is what you see, and only people who have traversed the worlds can really see it. which is why Zack is fully capable of seeing it now. I would guess anyone in this world is probably capable of seeing it because they have all been duplicated from the main world. And it's why at the end of Rebirth, Cloud is the only one that can see it, because the others haven't travelled through any world yet, whereas Cloud has. So yeah, this is indicative of a world that's just been born, a world that's about to die, or both. Very, very comfortably both. Anytime there's any kind of weird live streamy stuff that creates a world, I'm going to guess you're going to see something like this. So we'll keep an eye out for these kind of effects in the future. I don't think we see any others in Rebirth other than this one and the one at the very end of the game, but we'll watch. Anyway, we flip back to Aerith, who's kind of looking in the direction of Midgar without really knowing that she's looking in the direction of Midgar. And Red 13 kind of points out to her like, yeah, it's that way. And Aerith's worried and feeling bad about her mum because she didn't have the chance to let Elmira know what was going on with her. So, you know, maybe Elmira's panicking a little bit. It depends. We've not really seen this world's Midgar at all. Like, we've seen the Shinra building, and that's it. Other than that, we don't really see the Midgar for this world, and we definitely don't see the people within it. So we don't know what state Midgar's particularly in at this point in this world. Could it be that this Midgar in this world is kind of fractured and broken, and it's kind of a bit of both at the minute? Depends on who's looking at it. If it's someone from the other world looking at it, it looks all messed up and broken, but if it's someone from this world looking at it, it just looks fine. I don't know. We need answers around Midgar, and we'll keep an eye out. Hopefully we do see more in the game, and I've just missed it in previous playthroughs. But let's keep moving. We head up the mountain, we keep on going, and eventually we reach the Corel reactor. Now the Corel reactor is destroyed. It's a husk of a reactor. Everything's been blown up, and we'll find out the information about that very soon. But yeah, it makes for a pretty impressive sight. Let's be honest. Look at it. It's amazing. Now, as we head down to the actual reactor itself, Yuffie finally asks what's the deal with all the creepy hooded guys. So we explain that, you know, they're the people that Shinra screwed over, basically, did some testing on. They are the victims of Shinra, as Barret puts it. And Yuffie kind of points out that, oh, well, same, big same, big same. And we get all of the details about Wutai and the Shinra War and the invasion of Wutai. We find out about the truce that was forced upon them, and that the elders of Wutai kind of accepted because they were just done with the fighting. But the bulk of the people kind of still wanted to fight back and resist against Shinra. And perfect timing, that's when Colonel Lodbrok and his team turned up. 3 ex-soldiers ready to join the cause. And they were also backed up by Viceroy Saruf. Now, first off, Viceroy Saruf, Rufus, we all know that, that's fine. Colonel Lodbrok, little bit weird how he turned up, and the footage that we see here of the 2 soldiers that came with him, I would assume, they don't look like Lucia and Matt. And I'm wondering if something bad has happened to Lucia and Matt, and they are currently being puppeted in very much the same way Glenn seems to be being puppeted. That's kind of how it feels to me. Or was this actually Glenn at one point, and at some point Sephiroth kind of swooped in and took over? Like, I don't know. We need more information from the first soldier. We need to find out what went down between Rufus and Glenn, what actually went down, and what the circumstances around it was, and how was Sephiroth involved and anything like that. Because, like, obviously spoilers, but, you know, if you finish the game, you know that Glenn is Sephiroth. Yeah? Glenneroth. So, what are the circumstances around that? And what are the mechanics around this summoning of Glenn? If you want more info on it, go check out my video on Glenn. It's got everything in there that we know so far. So, yeah, check that one out. But we'll keep moving on. It's just very interesting how this government came together, took over Wutai, and it seems to be all of the interests external to Wutai manipulating Wutai into being a puppet for what they want. Rufus is doing his thing, and initially they were going to be a tool for him to try and depose his father, but that's gone now, so what's the purpose now? Glenn seems to be using, well, Glenneroth seems to be using Wutai to kind of facilitate this war, which fits in with Sephiroth's vibe of returning energy to the livestream, and a war is going to do that. A war will cause a lot of death and a lot of life to return to the livestream, therefore creating a reunion on a grander scale. Yeah, Wutai's in a bad spot, and I think Wutai is going to be a huge part of Part 3. I genuinely feel like Wutai is going to be much more important than it ever was in the OG. So anyway, that's enough about that. We'll get round to more Wutai talk. There'll be definitely a video talking about Wutai at some point. So we'll keep moving. We'll keep moving. But before we do, I do find it quite funny how Barret's super proud of the Resistance and their revolution, but it's funded by people that he definitely doesn't like in Rufus and Sephiroth, so that's quite interesting. Anyway, we circle around the reactor a little bit more and we find Yuffie kind of stood on the edge of one of the bridges that's been kind of cleaved off, and she's looking down at the Mako pool and she's excited. She's super excited. She just kind of wants to go materia fishing, but the fish that she pulls up is a big fish. It's a big fish. It's definitely a big fish. Now, no one kind of really gets what's going on except for Red. Red's just kind of like, yo, a weapon. Wow, interesting. And he kind of lets us know that these are creatures that only appear when the planet is in grave danger. So, this is an indicator to us that things are going crazy. And Red 13 points out to us that Hojo has also been seeking these things. So, alarm bells. Alarm bells are ringing right now. Now, Yuffie tries to lay claim to the huge materia within the weapon, and Cloud's just like, okay, you have fun fishing, catch up to us, see you later, bye. So Yuffie obviously doesn't stick about. I think the group's learning how to deal with Yuffie now. She's just like a bit of a weird child. Just ignore her and she'll tag along. Barret takes this as kind of confirmation that he was right about the threat that Shinra posed all along, but Cloud points out to him that it's took Sephiroth appearing in order for this to start happening. But you could then also point out that Shinra created Sephiroth, so it's Shinra, it's all Shinra, it's always been Shinra. Let's keep moving. Now, we have a huge section here where we have to kind of do a bit of a dungeon crawl. We need to figure out our way to get through the Corel mines in order to kind of lower a bridge for Cloud and the rest of the party to get across. The only truly good thing that happens here is Cloud Jr. Like, everything else is just kind of run-of-the-mill, kill things, figure out the puzzle, break the boxes, ride in a minecart, all that kind of stuff. But Cloud Jr. takes this from, like, a normally good chapter to one of the best things I've ever seen in my life. Like, look at him. Look at him, it's little baby Cloud Jr. Little baby Cloud Jr. Anyway, after meeting Cloud, Cloud Jr. is reunited with its mother, and they fly off into the distance, never to be seen again, I'm sure. We head through the final section of the mines and then across the bridge into Corel. And if you've played the OG, you know what's coming. Barret gets a super frosty reception from the locals here. He doesn't tell us the story yet. He waits a little bit of time until we get to the gondola, and then he'll tell us the story. But for now, it's not good. It's not good. And the people treat Barret with the highest level of disrespect. The highest level of disrespect. And anytime any member of the party tries to back Barret up and be like, whoa, 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 what the fuck are you doing? I'll stab you, to these people, Barret's like, no, leave them alone. I accept this. And yeah, this is why I love Barret. His story, like, after Cloud and Aerith, Barret's story is by a considerable distance the best story in the game. Like, it's amazing, especially with all the stuff that they've added in Rebirth. Like, they've fleshed his story out a lot. They make a couple of mistakes, like the Palmer fight after the dying scene. I hate that. But in general, Barret just, he was already amazing, and this just makes him even more amazing. Anyway, Tifa has to stop off at a doctor's surgery here, and we dip in and we meet Dr. Sharon, but not before Sephiroth appears. Cloud goes crazy, tries to cut Sephiroth in half. Whoops, it's not Sephiroth, it's a Black Cloak. Luckily, Barret manages to stop him, and Dr. Sharon comes running around the corner like, what's going on? But everything's fine, everything's all good. And we get a little bit of a scene between Barret and Dr. Sharon, with Barret having obviously grown up here, he knows him. And then we get a scene with Tifa, with Dr. Sharon having been the surgeon and the doctor who saved Tifa after the Nibelheim incident. So we've got a lot of crossover here. And what he's doing is he's doing research on the Black Cloaks and trying to figure out what's going on. And kind of as they come through, the ones that need healing, he'll patch them up and send them on the way. And he's found a foreign substance that he wasn't expecting to find in all of their blood, Genova. But he hasn't got a clue what it is, Genova. So yeah, he's kind of pissing into the wind here, because I don't think he's ever going to figure it out. Like, Shinra keep all of the documentation on the Genova project and Soldier in general on lockdown. so Sheeran won't ever get the context unless someone can give him the information directly. I kind of hope that at some point in part 3 we are the ones that give him that information. I think that'd be pretty cool, and kind of let him start piecing stuff together and try and figure things out. Maybe even find a way to slow or reverse the degradation. You never know. You never know. But the Doc tries to get a sample of blood from Cloud because he identifies Cloud as a soldier, and he clearly believes that these are all former soldiers that are going through degradation. Cloud refuses to give him any blood, obviously, because Cloud's protective of his bodily fluids. Moving on. We end up with one side quest in this area, which is from Dr. Sheeran himself, and it's to go and rescue a black cloak that's been kidnapped by someone. He's received a ransom letter, etc. People seem to assume that he's making money from this research that he's doing when he clearly isn't. So we head out, we use Red 13, kind of his scent following abilities to lead the way and get us to the enemies. And then we have this kind of UV light that kind of shows us where they've gone. It seems to pick up the Genova from people, you know, like where they've put the hands on the wall or they've walked. It can pick up on that Genova remnant that gets left behind. Anyway, after a bit of a journey, we find the cave, we rescue the Black Cloak, we beat up the people, they run away, and then we take him back to Dr. Sheeran, who, again, tries to get a little sample of Cloud's blood, but Cloud's like, no, it's my blood, get away. Maybe next time. Maybe next time. After this, all that's left, other than like maybe any little bits that you've got left to do, maybe proto-relic stuff, maybe some Queen's blood, anything like that. But after you've done all that, the only thing to do is head to the gondola. So we head to the gondola and we finally get the story about what happened with Corel. Now, the story, we all know it. Shinra came along and kind of offered the people of Corel an alternative to the coal mines that they use, and that was to build a macro reactor here. The town would receive money from the macro reactor, therefore replacing the income that they earned from coal. They would also probably still mine some coal, but just in a far lower degree. Everyone was kind of for it, with Barret kind of leading the push to bring this in. Dyne, Barret's close friend, was against it, as the mines were the heritage of the people of Corel, and it was something that their forefathers had protected and worked for, and that it's not something that they should just throw away like this. Eventually, Dyne loses, the reactor gets built, everything goes well for a little while, but then there's an explosion at the reactor. Shinra decide to blame the people of Corel for the explosion at the reactor and just sweep the town. They give it a good Nibelheiming, basically. They kill everybody, they burn it to the ground, and this leaves Barret in the situation that he's in now, where the people blame him because he was the figurehead that was kind of pushing for this, and he accepts that. He completely accepts that, and that's why he doesn't lash out or fight back or defend himself, because he blames himself. He feels responsible for what happened. He's the one that gave Shinra a route in, and it cost him everything. So, yeah, love Barret, love his story, bloody amazing, and we're going to get more of it over the course of the next 2 chapters, which I'm super happy about. And this also kind of galvanizes Yuffie and Barret together, because they now both have a massive reason to hate Scarlet, because Scarlet was the one that was involved in the Corel reactor, and was the one that was involved in the scorching of the town, basically. So Barret hates Scarlet for that reason, and then Yuffie obviously hates Scarlet for the whole thing with Sonon at the end of intermission, and just generally what went down with Wutai. So there's many reasons for both of these characters to hate Scarlet, and I think we're going to kind of see them two kind of come together and converge against Scarlet repeatedly going forwards in the project now. Very up for that. But anyway, everyone jumps onto the gondola, and we head up to the Gold Saucer, the greatest, most funnest place in all of the world. All of the world. As we head up to the saucer, Barret's very much in a state of like, yo, don't feel sorry for me, everything's fine, like, everyone cheer up, let's keep going about things. But then once everyone has cheered up and kind of looks away from Barret for a moment, you can see he's hurting. You can see the pain and the struggle that he's going through. So, yeah, looking forwards to more of Barret's story going forwards, but that is the end of Chapter 7 of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So, the things that happen in the chapter, all of the side questing, the return of Jules, many Johnnies everywhere, it's just good times, and then we get the climb of Corel, and then it hits us with the big stuff such as the Magnus materia or the huge materia, the weapons that have been born at 3 locations, with one of those locations being Midgar, Hojo being an absolutely sick freak, as per usual, Yuffie and the whole situation with Wutai, with Commander Colonel Lodbrok, you know, Gleniroth and Viceroy Saruf, and what's going on with Matt and Lucia. Is that Matt and Lucia that we see in the background of that shot? Why are they looking like that? Yeah, much more information that we need. Much more information that we need. Also, it's cool to do the Corel stuff, so, you know, we got good character moments in this chapter, we've got good narrative moments in this chapter that are building on the mysteries that have kind of been woven throughout this game. I enjoyed this chapter. It's a good fun chapter. But this is a long video, so let me know what you're thinking in the comments below. Don't forget, like the video, subscribe for future content, and, you know, share the video. Also, if you've not checked it out yet, I've done a video looking at Tavern Keeper, which is an upcoming, like, RPG / tavern management game that's very much like Theme Hospital from back in the day. So check that out on the channel because it is a fun game. There's a demo coming out for it in the next few days, so get on that. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget, like, sub, share, but more importantly than any of that, have a great day.